Is this the first time you've seen it?
No.
Have you ever seen it before?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but other than that, this is a really good movie.
What's your name?
Derek?
Derek?
He was in my
Michael
lap
Biehn.
the whole time,
Right.
I have to tell you.
Sure.
Yeah. How old are you?
12.
12. That's how old my son was. No, I think he was maybe 10, but he was like right next to me. And he was like having nightmares anyway about like different stuff. So we kind of wanted to wait to show him this movie because it's so scary.
Yeah.
So, he finally watched it. I think he watched it when he was about 10. So, you liked the movie?
Yes, it was a really good movie.
Have you, what'd you like about it?
I really like the suspense, the way that you're always you don't know where the alien is at all times, unless if it's on the radar. I really like that.
Yeah. And now, have you seen the original Alien?
No, I haven't, but my dad, which really doesn't get scared by anything,
Yeah.
said that was probably the scariest movie he's ever seen.
Well, there's a movie called The Exorcist,
Yes. There's a movie called The Exorcist.
which I think is the scariest movie I ever seen. And you might not want to watch that one for your...
I've already found it very disturbing.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Well, if you saw that, then it's very disturbing. But it is a incredibly well made movie.
It
Like
is.
the sound got won for an Academy Award. They were nominated for many Academy Awards. Lee J. Cobb, who plays the cop in it and stuff, was great. And the acting was brilliant in that movie.
Was really good.
Linda Blair was great as the little girl.
Yes.
It was probably nominated for like 12 or 15 Academy Awards, and at the time, it probably won. You could look it up on your. Do you have one of these
Yes, I do.
in your pocket? Yeah, you could probably look it up and see how many Academy Awards it won. But that's the scariest movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This movie is a movie that was made a long time ago, 25 years ago, 26, 27 years ago. And this is a movie that most people, I made a movie with this director who wrote this movie is, Jim Cameron is.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jim Cameron is, I was lucky when I was a younger actor. I was working quite a bit, but I was lucky to have run into the gym. And so I basically got the, have you seen the Terminator, the first one?
I think I have, right? That one.
I think I saw Judgment Day.
I saw Judgment Day,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I haven't seen the first one.
The first one, I'm the hero, and Arnold's the bad guy,
Yeah.
okay? The second one, Arnold's the hero, and then there's the kid and Linda Hamilton's in it, and I've been killed off in the first one. The first one's really good too, and it was directed by Jim Cameron. The second one was directed by Jim Cameron, and the rest of them have, like this third one, even though it was directed by a very good director, was not a very good movie, and people really didn't like it. And you can see in this movie, have you seen the third Aliens?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well what they did with the third Aliens is they started off the next third Aliens that they made, because they like franchises in the movie business these days. Aliens, Terminator, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Fast and the Furious, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, anything that's successful, they're just going to keep making more and more and more of them until, it finally doesn't make money. Because it's really about, making money, these days, more than it used to be, where the studios used to be a little bit more independent than they are now.
Yeah.
And guys that I grew up watching, like Jack Nicholson and let me see, who else? Robert De Niro. If you look at Jack Nicholson and Robert De Niro movies, or if you look at Dustin Hoffman's movies, or if you look at Al Pacino's movies, those four guys right there, and the guy who runs the film festival in Sundance. Who am I talking about?
Redford.
Yeah, you watched all those movies. Those are the movies that I consider really, really the prime time of movies. That was one of the best movies. The Godfather, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, the stuff that was like, Taxi Drivers, a brilliant, brilliant movie. Martin Scorsese's second movie he did with De Niro. I'm not even sure it was nominated for the Academy Award, but it certainly didn't win it. And these days, movies are really more about making money. And they are. You still get some ones that squeak through, like 12 Years a Slave. I thought was like, that's something that like a lot of people aren't going to go watch. And the people that made that I think Brad Pitt was involved with it. It was very brave of them to make that movie. It's a brilliant movie, but like that's not like a feel-good kind of movie,
Yeah.
So, you're like, the thing about this movie, Aliens, more than the Terminator, and another movie I did called Tombstone, okay?
Oh, fantastic.
But more than any other movie, this movie is more popular with children like that are as young as you. When they get a chance to see it, it's been passed down. Originally, the Aliens movie, which was I guess we were probably at that point we were still on VHSs. This is before DVDs. They had something called VHSs and stuff like that. And the parents would keep their VHSs or ultimately their DVDs, everything that went to DVDs, and they would give it to their kids. And that's how they end up. And I have kids all the time, really, that are your age, that approach me and say, "Hi, my name's Kyle so-and-so. I was named after, this is the Terminator, not Aliens, because I was Hicks in that." But Hicks is a character that is extraordinarily well liked by people that like that kind of movie. It's like probably the best, Ridley Scott's movie. Ridley Scott, who directed the first one, set up a lot of stuff for James Cameron. His movie's more like a kind of a walk through a fun house, where you kind of walking around, something jumps out at you right there, and then everything kind of slows down again, and it just happens over and over again until the end, and Sigourney ends up like the last person left in the original Alien. But it's a different type of movie than Jim Cameron's movie. It's a really, really good movie, and that's a really, really good director, Ridley Scott. He directed Blade Runner, which is a brilliant, brilliant... Have you seen Blade Runner?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that at its time, when it came out, during that time, with Harrison Ford, and, But you know what? That movie didn't do very well. People didn't... it wasn't like a big hit at the box office. And it's really... you're going to find out in life, it's really always about money. Mm-hmm. No matter what business, no matter what you're in, it's like always about money. Yeah. People that's all they care about. It seems to me these days, And so the movies, I sound like kind of the grumpy old guy that says, back in my day, it wasn't really in my day. It was like earlier than, it was earlier than me. Which was, and it's hard to compare like westerns like Tombstone with like westerns that were done back in the 30s and 40s and stuff like that. But there's a movie called Unforgiven, which is a western, which I think is the best western of our generation. But a lot of people think Tombstone is. Tombstone has got an incredible cast. They had a lot of problems making it, and when it came out, it didn't get like great reviews. It got like mixed reviews, and didn't make any money either. Westerns, they don't make them anymore because I guess Quentin Tarantino, who I worked with in a movie called Grindhouse, I guess Quentin's got a movie coming out that's a Western, which I just saw for the first time. I haven't really gotten much information on it yet.
Is it the Hateful Eight, something like that?
What? Well, all of a sudden, the cops are like, everybody's protesting his movie, which is probably just good for him. You know, that the whole police. I thought it was a Western, but the police department has come out like solidly, like making statements like all police people that are involved with policing, I don't know, some union or whatever. I saw in the news someplace, and I haven't really dug into it because I've been, kind of, busy with this whole thing and everything. And so, anyway, this movie is probably, they made a third one, and that one was not very good. And it was made by a guy named David Fincher, who's a really, really talented director, and went on to make a movie called Seven, which is really, really good and really, really scary. Mm-hmm. And he went on to win an Academy Award for
He did Fight Club as well.
Which one?
Fincher? Fight Club.
Yeah. Fight Club, yeah.
Fight Club,
Fincher's like great. Where are you from?
England. I'm Heath's brother.
Where?
England.
Where in England?
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Yeah, I think I've been there. I think I was there. My ex-wife, I met when I was doing Aliens, which was shot in England, in Pinewood Studios. And they had us living out in Slough when I first got. First of all, when I did the Terminator for Jim, the movie did very well. It was very successful, but it wasn't like this huge hit. Like everybody thinks now, like the Terminator is like being this like. That year in 1984, when the Terminator came out, box office wise, money wise, which is really the important thing, it was not even in the top 20 movies that came out that year. That year, to give you an example, Karate Kid Part 2, okay, made $90 million. Right, and the Terminator only made 40. It only cost $6 to make, so it was a successful movie. But Orion did not realize quite really what they had, and if they would have put it in more theaters, people probably would have gone, and word of mouth would have caught on, and it would have been a much bigger movie. Most people saw the Terminator like on VHS. Everybody saw it on VHS because it just didn't make that much money in the theaters. But everybody knew Jim was this great talent. And if you go to YouTube and you look for have you seen The Making of Aliens? Have you seen there's a 2-hour Making of Aliens that was done about.
I've seen it.
Okay, it was done about 5 years after we made that movie. And you wouldn't believe how many people who were working so hard to try to please Jim Cameron's vision, to make this movie. There were. There were literally hundreds of people from Stan Winston, who helped create the Terminator, the first Terminator, and the look of the Terminator with Jim Cameron, it's off of Jim's drawings. And then he did Aliens also, and he controlled all the aliens and the face huggers and all that kind of stuff, the moving face huggers and stuff like that. And he went on to work with Spielberg and did the dinosaur. What's the movies?
Jurassic
Park. That Jurassic Park stuff.
Yeah, that little movie.
Yeah, he went on to win 8 Academy Awards for best, visual effects, and he passed away. He was a great, really, really nice guy. When I was, when my son was about your age, he and a friend of his had a school project or something, and I asked Stan if we could come by his studio, and he was working on a movie at the time for Spielberg that was not real successful. It was an odd movie. I just saw what I thought was, I think, it's Spielberg's new movie with Tom Hanks. Yeah. so, I didn't get really a chance to watch it all. I just saw bits and pieces of it and stuff, because I was like coming back in here. And usually when I do these things, I've literally done this when there were like 1,000 people, watching this. And this guy who's put this together has he's got a lot of irons on the thing, and I kind of feel a little bit for him that he had such a small turnout. But
definitely appreciate you coming.
yeah, well, there's no way that I wasn't going to come because I told him I was going to come, and but anyway, let me finish up a little bit with Alien. So they made the third one, and David Fincher directed that, and he went on to become a very famous director and win an Academy Award for Best Director. And Jim went on to make an Academy Award movie called The Titanic, and so you've seen a lot of movies, and he won an Academy Award for that. But then the third one, which was done by Fincher, when you see that movie, you see me and Newt. And the whole end of that movie was about saving Newt.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole, that was Jim Cameron's listen, we got to save Newt.
Are you going to tell him how the third one begins?
Yeah.
Because the whole time back there, he's like, just let me know Newt survives. Let me Newt.
That's the thing.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, would you rather not know how the next one starts?
It's like
years
after.
Like that's the thing. Like
And they don't show anything.
I can watch movies that have just some of the
Adults
normal
being
characters
murdered and stuff. They just
die.
can't be kids.
Okay?
Yeah.
But when there's a kid in some sort of situation where they could die easily, I have to know whether or not they're going to survive, because if that surprisingly just comes to me, that's just disturbing. That just disturbs me.
Well, you should always remember too that what you want. I mean, there are a lot more disturbing movies than that. There's a movie called Requiem for a Dream that will, you should see just so you never take any kind of drugs. It'll give you a really good idea of what it's like to be a drug addict. And I made a movie actually called The Divide, which is about 6 or 7 people that were stuck, 8 people that were stuck in a bomb shelter after a nuclear event, and they were stuck in there, and the radiation seeped in, and everybody started getting a little nuts and stuff, and it's a very disturbing movie too, but people are starting to recognize it as a really good movie, like Requiem for a Dream was a really, really good movie too. But anyway, getting back to Aliens, they did the third one, and it was very, very disappointing for the fans. What most people don't realize is Ridley Scott's a great director. You ever seen Black Hawk Down?
No.
That's a movie you should see. That's nothing but guys shooting guns based on a true story. Brilliant, And he's made a lot of great movies. But anyway, the third one was no good, okay? And so the fans were disappointed. Then they made a fourth one, and it was really bad too. So the franchise then becomes Sigourney's maybe kind of wanting to distance herself from these bad movies a little bit. So I don't think that she really was really kind of get on board again anything. And then they made Aliens versus the Predator, which is The Predator is a completely different movie. Really, it's a good movie.
I've read The Predator.
Yeah, it's a good movie. You should watch it. It's a really, really good director too. And so basically the franchise I thought had just disappeared. Here I was the hero in the classic one, and let's just say that I'm not in the third one. I'm not trying to give you any big spoilers.
Did you want to be in the third one? Or?
Of course I wanted to be in the third one.
So I read at the time that you didn't want to be in it.
No. That's complete
I thought it might
horse
be.
puppy. Of course I wanted to be in it, and always characters from movies. But anyway, I wasn't. And there's a story. I don't know how much time you guys have, but there's a story behind that. But before I get, that story, what happened was there's a guy named Neil Blomkamp, okay? And he directed a movie called District 9. Did you see
Yes,
District
I've heard
9?
of that. That was
Okay, well, you
really
should
good
watch
movie.
that one too, because that one is also not like, there's no, it's not like a horror movie or anything. Brilliant director, really. When I saw District 9, I was like, who is this guy? And then he did a movie with Matt Damon. Anybody?
Elysium?
Elysium, yeah, Elysium, which was it was good, but it was kind of hard for to really get behind the characters. But it was a big movie. I think it was very successful. Jodie Foster, Dave, and not David Fincher.
Michael Fincher, Michael Fichtner.
Fichtner played the bad guys. They both played like standard bad guys, just bad for no, and like there was nobody really to root for because, but I'm sure that it did well. Then he did a movie called Chappie, which was,
I've heard of that.
yeah, Chappie was, the thing about Chappie is, to me, have you ever seen E.T.?
Yes, I've seen E.T.
Okay, E.T., the thing that was cool about E.T. was that the kids, at first, were scared of this thing, and it took them a while to get to know it, and then they kind of, fall in love with them, and they interact a lot, and then it's taken away from the kids, and the kids are really upset about it. But there's a large space of time where they're getting to, be around the kids, and they fall in love with the aliens. In not District 9, but in Chappie, there is an inventor, and there's robots all over the place now. Just everybody's robots and stuff. Everybody's got a personal robot, like a personal computer, and everybody's there, driving everything. But this guy creates one that has consciousness, like we do, which is like the end of Blade Runner is all about. And it's like people are still, like Stephen Hawking and stuff, or people are still wondering when that could happen, when computers could. This movie, not this movie, but the Terminator movie is a movie that, when we made, nobody would ever thought, but nobody ever this was this was science fiction. This can access anything that you possibly want to see, any piece of information that you want to have. It's just unthinkable that that they would ever come up with this. So the idea that at some point maybe this will have consciousness, like the Terminator did. Some great thinkers of this day, like Stephen Hawking, they're a little bit frightened. 100 years, 200. Look back 100 years.
Yeah.
Look back 200 years how we were living. And try to think in your lifetime. I don't think there's going to be any movie theaters anymore. Most places. This place right here, this big movie, it's all over the place. But most movie theaters across the country are all in cineplexes, and they're basically 6 movies on little screens that are about a fourth of the size of this screen, and there's about a fourth as much seating space, and they're playing 7 different movies, and they'll be playing. I come from a small town of about 50,000 people, and in that town there's 2 cineplexes, and they're each playing 7 movies or 8 movies, and they're playing the same movies as each other, and that's the same movies that's playing in Times Square, and it's the same movies that is opening at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in L.A. So there's a monopoly by the studios of theaters. So if you have a little movie that you want to see this, kind of squeak through, it's kind of hard to get on a screen. So most Americans like to have convenience, and that's why fast food things went over so big, because mothers used to be able to go buy Kentucky Fried Chicken and kind of bring home dinner and once a week or whatever, and they like convenience. So if I can sit in my house and watch that movie that you just watched, and or something that's happening is coming out on this coming Friday, brand new, nobody's ever, it's like Spielberg's new movie. Is that movie out? Has that been in theaters?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. I never even heard of it. You know, I mean, so obviously it must not have done real well, but or I just like there's just like so much stuff going on now that like. But anyway, getting back to Neil Blomkamp. Neil Blomkamp cast Sigourney Weaver in Chappie. She plays the bad guy, only she's the bad gal in that movie. And Neil pitched her his take on what he thought would be a great Aliens movie, and that pitch was to act like the third one. The first one was Alien. The second one was Aliens. Then he pitched her that he was going to act like 3 and 4, like they just never happened, and he was going to pick it up from where, like after the second one, and act like the third and fourth one never happened. So he started drawing pictures and had artists do artist renditions, and they were of me, of Hicks, at my age, the age that I am now. And he, had some pictures of Sigourney and some different kind of aliens and gear she's wearing and stuff, and put it online, and a lot of people reacted to it. So Fox, 20th Century Fox, who owns the show, basically he talked Sigourney into saying yes. So Fox has announced that they're going to make another Aliens movie, and that David Fincher's going to direct it, that Ridley Scott is going to be the executive producer on it.
Yeah.
And they're going to act like, so my guess is what they'll do is they'll bring back me and Newt. Newt, by this point, will be like 25, 27, whatever, some great role, hot young actress will want to play that role. It'll be a role that every woman in town, wants to play. Yeah. And I have a feeling that, Sigourney's getting to be probably early to mid 60s or whatever. And I think that they're probably looking to kind of like maybe pass the torch to a younger girl, make a great Aliens movie, and then continue that franchise, because that's what makes the money. There's no guarantee that Blomkamp's going to make a great movie. The reason I mentioned E.T. before was because in his movie where the computer becomes conscious, he's only with him for like 24 hours. He's barely realized that he has created this robot that's got consciousness. And so he doesn't really have time to really like him or dislike him or fall in love with him or whatever, and he's snatched away right away. And the rest of the movie is kind of about him with all these like kind of thugs that are stealing things and stuff and whatever. And the guy really wants his robot back, but he doesn't really know him that well, And I think that, in my opinion, that really is the difference between E.T. and the movie that he made, is he didn't give them enough time to really bond together, Yeah. And so it was not a critically or box office wise success at all. It did very poorly. But Neil and a lot of people like Ridley Scott, Jim Cameron's about the only one that pull off a perfect movie every time. And even he, I contend, had a little problem with The End of the Abyss, which is another movie that I made for Jim Cameron, which is a great movie, which is the first time CGI was ever used on film. Do you know what CGI is? Computer animated graphics. Okay, so like a lot of times you watch movies and you see like a helicopter fly by and you go, oh, it's so weird, that helicopter. That's a computer generated image. But in Aliens, he used it the first time for this underwater, it's an underwater tentacle, looks like a snake or something, and it was like Aliens, really, underwater. And it's a great movie, but it's a brilliant movie up until the end. And the end is just not as brilliant as the rest of the movie. And it did okay. It made its money back, but it was not a big hit. at all, and I played the bad guy in that. And so I've got the chance to work with Jim Cameron 3 times, and actually did a little bit in the second Terminator, but he had to cut it out because this movie was just too long, and he had too many flashbacks, and it was one of the last things to go because it was played in theaters, upcoming attractions. There was a shot of me in there.
You can still watch it.
Yeah, and you can still watch
Yeah.
it now. You get like the director's.
I own the director's cut where you're in it, so.
Yeah.
The presence out,
Yeah. So,
Just
but the
like
bad thing about it is I don't get any residuals for it. You know.
Oh.
Yeah. So now Fox has announced that they're going to do this, and Fincher called me. Blomkamp called me and asked me if I'd be interested in reprising Hicks. And I said to him, well, that's a scratch I've been waiting to itch for 25 years. So all things were moving ahead forward, and then I understand that Ridley Scott, who's got a movie called Prometheus,
Yes.
is making a sequel to Prometheus. And Prometheus, although I was told Prometheus took place way before Aliens take place, it kind of has the same feel to it.
Yeah.
So there's possibility either Fox or Ridley Scott or somebody has decided they don't want to come out with like, because they were both going to go into production at the same time, which would have been early next year. And Ridley's probably in pre-production still on his. I don't know if he started shooting. They probably, once they have that movie in the can, they don't want to sit on it. They got to get it out right away. They want to get it out right away. And they don't want to sit on a movie for a year after it's been made. So they probably don't want 2 movies that are that similar coming out. And Ridley Scott's a big stud, big star over there at Fox. Not as big as Jim Cameron,
Yeah.
but Jim's got no dog in the fight here. And so Ridley Scott's movie is going to get made first. And Neil's movie, which was green-lit, I think has been put on the back burner until Ridley's finished his movie and it, either comes out or is close to coming out. But, it would be a real embarrassment for Fox and Neil Blomkamp and Sigourney Weaver and all of them if they didn't make it. And the fact of the matter is I was going to tell you before, is I wasn't even going to be in Aliens. I was in the Terminator, and you would think that Jim Cameron did. Most people think that I did such a good job in the Terminator that he just cast me as Hicks in Aliens, which is not what happened. He cast another actor who did all the rehearsals and was leading up and shot the first couple of days of shooting, but drugs, dude, drugs. And it was kind of the third strike on this guy because he had had some problems before. And they fired him. And I got a call from Gail Hurd, who also produced the Terminator, was married to Jim Cameron when we did Aliens, was divorced when we did the Abyss. Called me. I was Friday night in Studio City, California. She called me. She was just Gail. I said, "Hi, Gail. How you doing?" She said, "I'm doing great." She asked me if my passport was in order. I said, "Yes." And she said, "Can you get on a plane and fly here and play this part?" And I said, "Hell yes."
Yeah.
And so I basically went in, and that's how I got that role. And all the 3 weeks of rehearsing they did, and marching the soldiers and all that kind of rehearsal period of time, I didn't have any of that. I just went in, boom, and hit Hicks right away. One of the things that I'm really kind of proud of about the movie, well, I'm proud of, I'm very blessed to have met Jim Cameron and to have the career that I've had. A lot of other movies I've done like hundreds of stuff, a lot of bad stuff too, but nobody ever those seem to just kind of disappear, But I lost my train of thought. What I was talking about, what was I talking about?
We were talking about how you got the movie and then you
Oh, yeah,
blessed
how
and
I
then
got
you,
the part.
and you were awesome.
We had no rehearsals. we just
Oh
went
well,
right in there.
I know what I was talking about was that if you watch Sigourney Weaver, if you watch her career, she always plays like she's the bad bad person in Chappie.
Yeah.
And she plays like, people ask me what Sigourney's like in real life. That's kind of who she is, Ripley.
Yeah.
She's, she's very strong, opinionated, funny, caring, giving, lovely, hardworking, just like Ripley. She's just like Ripley, maybe not quite as, because Ripley's got that thing right away where she's like defensive. Sigourney's not that way, but there's a lot of characteristics about Sigourney that are that are like that. And one of the things that I think is so great is that in Sigourney's career, you never really get a chance to see her being kind of giddy, kind of like with a man. She's not like the normal leading lady who's like involved in a lot of love stories and so on and so forth. But whenever she talks about it, you could tell she liked Hicks, and Hicks liked her. And I always call it, like the best like story, on film, but even when we were at the 25th year anniversary of it, when she talks about Hicks, she turns into this little girl almost, and she just has a real love affair going on with Hicks. It's not Michael Biehn, believe me, because she didn't. I was hanging out with Bill Paxton and a guy who was doing Full Metal Jacket, which is another movie that was being shot over in England at the time. On that same lot that we were shooting, Al Pacino was shooting a terrible movie called Revolution, and they're doing a little Shop of Horrors was being shot there. Rick Moranis was working there, and Val Kilmer was shooting something called Private Agent or Private something or whatever. And so it's a massive studios. I hear they're bringing it down. When I asked Neil where they were going to shoot the new one, the new Aliens, he said Canada. What's the west coast town in Canada? Vancouver, yeah, Vancouver. So anyway, so that's how I got that role, and like everybody got, all the actors got to put their plates, those plates that we wore, or shields and stuff. Everybody got to paint their, like Bill Paxton painted his girlfriend's name on there, and like so on and so forth. And the other actor, I put a little heart, like right here, and it was pink, and it had a little line through it or whatever, And I said, one of the first things I said to Jim Cameron is like, because it had to match some other shots that the other actor, he might have to match, he might have to use a shot where you really couldn't see him, but you could see the armor, so he didn't want me to change the armor. But I said, like, this looks like a bullseye to me, I don't really like this very much, but, it was looking back on it, it was just amazing. And if you watch that, there's a 2-hour documentary on the making of Aliens, which is brilliant, and then there's a 5-part series on the making of the Terminator, which is on YouTube. And so that you can get like all the information you could possibly want. Gail Hurd is also very, I don't mention her enough when I'm out and doing things, but she's a little petite little 28-year-old, 29-year-old girl, and she was, she could like, stand up to Jim Cameron and say, no, Jim, you're not doing it, and stand up to Teamsters and, guys that, wanted to unionize our set when our drivers weren't Teamsters, and she's a tough little girl, and she's one of the producers of The Walking Dead now, so probably familiar with that thing. So
One thing.
but she's produced a lot of stuff in between, but those are Walking Dead, I know, is like big, or it was the thing that seems to me like everything's getting so spread out now. It used to be there were 4 television channels, and just a number of theaters in every, everything's getting so spread out now that like you can watch from like there's like watch anything from like golf to boxing to a drama, television series, or you can go back and watch all of the Twilight Zones. You can go back and watch all of the, all of the television series in the past and everything. And it's just like I don't even watch television anymore. And I think most people that have computers are willing. My kid is, a little bit older than you now, but he's willing to watch it. He's got his headphones on. He's willing to watch a movie on a computer like this. If he's on an airplane or whatever, or he's also got his iPad or whatever, which is what he really uses the most. But like I said, I don't think theaters are going to be around for that much longer, because when you go to a theater, you have to get in your car, you have to drive there, you have to park, sometimes you have to pay for parking, and then you go to a theater, you don't know if you're going to get good seats or not unless you get there really early. And they basically make more money selling you their popcorn and their Coca-Cola, both of which are cost about 5 cents for them to make, and they sell it to you for $5. And then you go in and you don't know whether you're going to get a good seat or not. You might end up down there in that second row on the right-hand side, and you're watching the movie like this, or and then people are on their phones a lot. You see people checking their phones and stuff, and you'll see things light up in the theaters a lot, which is kind of irritating if you pay to see a movie and you really want to see the movie, and you don't, and people don't think twice about putting on their phones and checking their texts and stuff. So I don't really see the future for it. And I also don't see the future for big movie stars much anymore, because everything is just getting so so many different choices. You can watch some guy killing crocodiles. If you want to watch that, you can watch you can watch cooking shows. You can watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you can watch Who Wants to Be a Best Dancing thing, and you can watch, and there's so many different things to watch that everything's just getting generalized and spread out, that in the old days there used to be Clark Gable and James Dean and all these movie stars, but that's when there were just a few movies. That was when there was only a few different things to watch, and Paul Newman and guys like that. And what's that?
Writers need to come up with other things, because they keep remaking, old movies over and over again instead of coming up with new stuff.
Yeah, most movies nowadays are either remakes, sequels, or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's not because there aren't writers out there that are talented enough to write good movies. It's because the studio doesn't want to take a chance on anything other than a sequel. It's not even political. It's just about money. It's about money. Too scared to take a chance on something that they know that if they put out another Aliens, it's guaranteed overseas money and so on and so forth. That's going to make a certain amount, even if it's bad. And they buy up the screens too. And so sometimes when they'll be empty. They bought up the screens. Their movie turns out to be a bomb, and there'll be empty theaters playing all the way through the week, even though there's nobody in the theaters, and even though the theater owners have already made a deal with the whatever. It's all monopolized now.
I think there'll always be room for actors.
For actors. Well, let me tell you what's going to happen to actors.
We always want you guys around.
Yeah, but that's not what's going to happen. Okay.
I know it's not gonna happen.
Basically, actors are going to be a thing that will be around, but they already can take Bill Paxton's image, or they can take anybody's image, any movie star. Tom, who I just watched, and the other one, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise. Yeah. And they basically can, put dots on their face and recreate them. Yeah. And basically, they're getting to a point now where I could see animation in what's the video game where maybe we already talked about it, shooting, where you shoot.
Halo?
What?
Halo?
Call of Duty.
There's a million.
Yeah.
Call of Duty was the big one, you know. And you can see, you know, images and Blood Dragon. You can see how well those. I mean, to me, those computer graphics are pretty damn close to looking like real people now.
Yeah,
So you can
Resident
imagine 10
Evil
years from now,
is
20 years from now, people say, yeah, but you know, those computer people will never have the heart and what's in the soul of really great actors. Well, that's not really true, you know. I mean, a guy on a computer might have a lot of passion also for creating a character with my face, you know, and be passionate about, just as passionate as I was about acting, is he is about like creating an image, and my image or Tom Cruise's image or anybody's image. So I think that like what will happen in the future, I've been told by numerous directors that what will happen in the future is they will start, Tom Cruise will take his image and he'll rent it to somebody for a certain amount of money, and they'll go make a movie with his blessings, and they'll pay him to make that movie, and he'll rent it out to somebody else, and they'll pay him to make a movie, and he'll oversee it. And then when he actually makes the movie himself, it'll be like this really big deal because it's really Tom Cruise. It's just not an image of
I don't know
Tom
if Tom
Cruise.
Cruise will ever do that, because Tom Cruise is the one actor I know of that's just like, I can't have a stunt double or anything.
Well, Tom Cruise is not being, you know, Tom Cruise, first of all, there's no way that he would have time to do all the stunts that were done on a lot of the movies that he's done. And I know Tom Cruise's stunt double, and I know Tom Cruise does not do all his own stunts, believe me. He's never done all his own stunts. His last movie was sold on the fact that he did do this stunt, which he's a ballsy guy, and he probably does a lot of his stunts, but he doesn't do them all. I can guarantee you he does not do them all, and has never done them all throughout his entire career, because I know his stunt guy, and he was his stunt guy for like 20 years, and then he let him go and picked up another guy that doubled him. And he's a really nice guy, by the way. Really, you know, he's a Scientologist, and all the Scientologists I've ever worked with, because there's a few of them in the industry, are always really nice. And Tom Cruise is like the nicest guy in the world, and I don't know him really well, but I've met him a few times, and we've talked, and he's just a sweetheart of a guy. And everybody who works with him just says he's the greatest guy in the world, you know. And he's a Scientologist or whatever, so like, when you think about Scientology and you think about the religion, it sounds just so ridiculous, but then, you know, I don't really want to get too, you know,
Too
philosophical, but, you know, I don't know if that religion is any more ridiculous than a lot of religions that are out there, including the one that I grew up in, you know, so, you know.
You wouldn't mind, I bet that everybody has one question that
Go
you
ahead.
really want to ask.
Go ahead, you ask.
Like, everybody have one question you really want to ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, start from one side, just like ask one question.
Okay.
This way everybody gets a chance.
Yeah.
How do they cast now, though? I mean, do they have, like, do casting agents or casting people, do they just call you directly? Do you go on auditions? Like, how do you
Me
get cast?
personally, I mean, you
All right,
know,
so
I
like-
used to go on a lot of auditions,
Oh, okay.
but like,
Like, where do you reach that point where you don't have to go with auditions? You have a really
I
good
went a
agent?
period of time, you know, you reach that point when it depends on who's like, you know, if it's Jim Cameron, you're probably going to have to audition for him.
So, like, right now, do you just wait for people to call you and say, oh, we have this
Yeah, I just got a
script for
call
you?
today from somebody saying,
So you don't,
they offered me a part, and like, but I did audition. This goes back. I didn't really realize I was doing audition. Basically, you just go to, you have an agent, and the agent, if you thinks you're good, will submit you for jobs, and the casting director will know that agent and have confidence in that agent, and the people that they send over are going to be good people, and they do it all now on tape, on not
video?
tape, but on digital,
yeah.
you know, like cameras, and you do your audition on with a camera on you. what's interesting is that what a lot of directors say is that when you watch an actor in person, it's different than when you see him on digital film.
Yeah.
So most auditions now are all done on,
they
there's
wanna
no,
see what
and
you
it's
look
much
like on camera.
easier on the director can be
That
doing
makes
other
sense.
things than. I'll give you an example. Steven Spielberg was making. What's the famous movie he made with Harrison Ford, which they've made like 4 of them?
Indiana Jones?
Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
Indiana
He was
Jones.
making Indiana Jones, and I was called in to, play that role, to talk to Steven Spielberg, not to audition for him, just to talk to him about playing that role. And they sent me over to Universal, and he was in a building across the street from Universal. And I walk in this building, and there is Steven Spielberg. And in the middle of like a room with nothing else, there's like a kitchen inside, and there's a chef in there with him. And they both have on like chef's clothes and stuff like the hat and the fucking thing. And sorry about the language,
right.
but he
Okay.
used, and he's like, they're making pies. Steven Spielberg and this chef are making pies, and I go in to talk to him about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and talk to him about like what I've done before and why I'd read the script or how great I thought it was or whatever and what I would do with it, and but he didn't ask me to audition, but I asked him like, what's up with the, why are you cooking, at the same time that you're auditioning actors? And he said, because it's time consuming to watch actor after actor after actor after actor after actor. It's very time consuming. And so he was multitasking at that time. And I don't know what he did on other casting sessions, but the only time I met Steven Spielberg on a casting session was he was baking pies and doing that at the same time as he was meeting actors because he didn't want to waste time. It's like guys like Cameron too. They don't like to. They don't sit around and watch TV. They're, it's hard to get a hold of Jim Cameron because he's usually like over in Russia, someplace like trying to go to the further down in the ocean so he can document. I think he's more interested in exploration now than underwater exploration than he is in films. But the, what's the name of his latest movie, the big one?
Avatar?
The Avatar, yeah. The Avatar now is $1 billion franchise, 2 and 3. It's $1 billion franchise. Well, he uses that money to do all his underwater, we used to have a guy named Jacques Cousteau when I grew up, and he was a French guy that used to do a lot of underwater stuff. But Jim goes down deeper than anybody's gone before with cameras and lights, and they document like plankton and stuff that you've never seen before, and fishes and little weird stuff, weird fishes. And he's an explorer. He's an underwater explorer. And I really think that's where his real passion is, because in between the Titanic and Avatar, it's 10 years where he didn't make a commercial movie. The Titanic made more money than any movie in the history of movies. And then after a couple of years or two, Harry Potter comes out and the sequels and other movies start making more money because more people are going to see movies, and it's later on, there's more population, people, and so his most box office movie got beaten. He waited 10 years to make another movie, and he made Avatar, and it was the most, it made more money than any movie in the history of movie making. So I don't audition, but I would if Woody Allen wanted, if Woody Allen wants to see you, or Martin Scorsese wants to see you, or if something's really, really good, it's really hard, to beat the, I've been in with the first Terminator is really, really good too, and a lot of people really love that movie, and So it's really, really hard to like just go out and do stuff because I've made enough money in my life that, and I don't really have to work if I don't want to. And it's, you know, like to leave Los Angeles and my family and where my base is and where my kids are and stuff like that, it would take a lot, you know. It would take another Jim Cameron movie or a Spielberg movie. Would I read for Steven Spielberg? Yes. Would I read for Martin Scorsese? Yes. Would I read for Clint Eastwood? Yes. But some bozo who's like doing some television series and wants to know if I'll come in and audition for him, no. No. So does that help with
Yeah,
your...
well, thank you very much.
All right. Next.
You have another question?
I am someone who would like to go into filmmaking as a career,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited about that. You having been in a ton of stuff, working with a lot of different directors, plus I think you've directed a few things also. Do you have anything you've learned over the course of your career that you think would be really great advice for someone trying to get into it and someone doing it?
Yeah, that is just to do it. And that's what Robert Rodriguez, book, Rebel Without a Crew, is all about. Is just like, do it. I mean, if you have a story, can you write?
No, I'm not that great at it, and that's one of my worries.
Okay, well, you need to find a story, and you need to find somebody. If you have a story, if you have an idea for a movie, first of all, your first movie that you want to make, don't make it some movie about outer space or whatever. It's going to be a $50 million movie, and you'd have to get it to Brad Pitt to ever even get it done. It's got to be like a little small, like cabin in the woods type of thing, just a couple of characters, and, you know, something that can be done very, very cheaply. Because most people, you know, will give me a script, and I'll read 3 pages of it, and there's a car chase, you know, through Los Angeles, and I'm going like, I can't help you with this, you know. Then nobody's going to make this movie with me in it, you know. I'm not that big a star. With Tom Cruise, maybe you could, if you can get to Tom Cruise. What you should do is you should get Robert Rodriguez's book and just, I mean, you've got cameras are like a dime a dozen these days. Good cameras, and you like 5D cameras and like, I'm not that like technical with cameras and stuff. I shot a movie on a red camera, a little grindhouse movie I'd made for $100,000. $60,000 of it I paid myself, and $14,000 of it went to 2 other actors, and so it was made for almost nothing. It's called The Victim, which might be a little dark for you and a little too much sex involved in that for you at your age, but you know. It's a good little movie. I'm really proud of it. I made it. I wrote it in 12 days. Shot it in pre-production, which is where you have to cast it, and you have to find all your locations, and you have to find all your props, and you have to find people to feed you, and outhouses, and like just all your pre-production, all your different locations, different cars you're going to be using, makeup people, a wardrobe, and all that kind of stuff. Usually you do that when you have a script, so you know what you need. I did mine kind of on the run while I was writing the script, and I wrote it in 12 days, did the pre-production in 12 days, and shot it in 12 days with 1 camera, you know, so my advice to you is like, don't listen to anybody else. Don't take any, you know, don't take some producing classes. Don't go to college and like, you know, like find a story that you like, and find a story or a movie that you like, and make one that's just a little bit different. It just has to be a little bit different than like The Victim. I mean, just change it up a little bit. I mean, all movies are kind of been copied from other movies. I mean, there's no like really real brand new ideas that are out there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why when I saw District 9, I was like, oh my God, this is like something really new and something really interesting. So, I mean, the advice that I give is like, just go do it. Go do it yourself. There's a million people out there that will, if you can find a script, or if you can have somebody write a script, if you have a story, and you think it's a good story, and you could find somebody, whether it's at college or whether it's amongst your friends or whatever, that people that like to write a script, or write the story, write a script, you'll immediately be able to find a director and actors and people that will want to get involved with it. And these days you can make movies. I've got a company now because The Victim did so well, and we make movies for anywhere from $25,000 to about $600,000. But we make movies for $25,000.
Yeah.
And they're working 3 cameras, just shooting 12, 14, 20 pages a day, you know, where is episodic television, you know, like Hawaii 5-0 or whatever. So any episodic show, that's 8 days of shooting. We shoot ours in about, 8 days, 7 days. And so, like, is just go do it, like, don't, just find a story that interests you, that you think is a really, really good story, and try to find somebody to write a script, and people will flock to you. There's a million people out there that want to direct it. I mean, I don't know if you want to direct or if you want to produce or whatever. But
I would like to direct.
Yeah, well, if you want to direct it, then the best thing what you need to do is you need to find a really good story, and you need to have somebody write a screenplay for you.
Okay.
And then once you get that screenplay, you'll attract a lot of people if it's a good screenplay, because actors are a dime a dozen out there, and most crews are working for, like I said, like anybody can make a movie now. I mean, movies on YouTube. I mean, like people make like shorts. They make like everybody's making like movies, So just go do it.
All right. Well,
That's
thank
my
you very
advice
much.
to you. Yeah. Any questions?
In the late 80s, early 90s, I read somewhere, I think it was in Empire magazine, that Jim Cameron was going to make a Spider-Man. It was going to be you, Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, that's one of those urban legends, okay? That I get asked about once in a while. Not that often, but it always interests people.
Yeah.
First of all, yes, he was involved with the making of Spider-Man, and he wanted to do Spider-Man. I don't know what studio did Spider-Man, but he had sort of falling out. Either they didn't like his idea, or his budget was going to be too, his budget for, Avatar was huge, and he had to convince Fox to put up the $200 million or $400 million, whatever it cost. He had to convince Fox that, like, it's going to be worth it, and he showed me a presentation of what he showed Fox when I was up for the role that Stephen Lang played in that movie. And I would have played that role if Sigourney had not been cast in it, because once he cast Sigourney, who was a bigger star than I was, and at that time, of course, and always really, bigger star, and once he cast Sigourney, he kind of thought, you got the whole aliens connection thing going on. I don't really want that for Avatar and whatever. But otherwise, I would have played that role that Stephen Lang played. Because I was up for it for like 8 months. I was waiting to hear with John Landis, his executive producer, won the Academy Award for Best Movie for the Titanic. As we would check in with him once a month or whatever. He's still deciding. Jim, nobody can get to Jim. He won't take any calls. Just my agent used to handle everybody, Mel Gibson and Denzel Washington and Michelle Pfeiffer, and like he was a big agent who wouldn't return his calls. So the thing about it was he ever thinking about using me? No, absolutely not, because by that time I was 30 years old, and that Parker kid, or whatever the name of the character, yeah, he was a kid. So the idea of me playing a high school kid was never in Jim's mind, because he was obviously 10 years too old to play it. Maybe you get a guy that's 1 or 2 years older, but you can't. By that time, when they were talking about it, I think it was after Aliens or whatever, and I was 32, maybe 30, 31, 32, and that was a kid coming right out of high school or whatever. So there was never any validity to that rumor that Empire started, and is kind of like this little urban legend that's out there that's not true.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
First off, would you like a chest burster?
No. I've seen it. Hopefully I'll see one in the future. But,
Hopefully, yeah.
that looks like a really good one, but I don't know. I don't know what I would do with it except for
Yeah.
give it to somebody else. That I mean, I don't have like memorabilia and stuff like that around my house. I don't have pictures of myself around that. I mean, like I have some pictures,
Hope
but
you have
I'm
a
not.
picture of yourself in your own house.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few family pictures and stuff.
But moving on, it's similar to his question. I'm someone who this was actually I made it myself about last night.
Yeah, it's great.
On
Let me see it.
It's rubber coated with it's completely posable as a wire all the way through it. I haven't finished it yet. I still need some teeth and a few other things.
It's really
but,
good, really good.
I just made it last night because I wanted to have something to bring to the theater. I make props and costumes. I've been doing it, pretty much ever since I was a kid.
Well, you're obviously very talented.
And
This
I did everything from I made Groot, which was a character in Guardians of the Galaxy, made a full-size Velociraptor. I've been doing stuff like that for a while, and I've been building a portfolio. My question is, do you have any like suggestions or anything like that for somebody like yourself? You got into Hollywood as an acting career. I would like to get into something like that as somebody who works at a studio making props and costumes.
Yes.
I've already worked on a portfolio. I've already tried applying to just simple costuming jobs for Universal, and I mean they've did phone interviews, but I usually hear the same thing. Oh, you don't have any actual experience. You haven't gone to an actual college for this kind of stuff, so they usually don't want to even.
Well, what you really need to do is you need to move to LA, and you need to start doing like low budget stuff, and work your way up. I don't know if they have like training programs and stuff like that the studios and stuff like that. But I mean, you're not gonna become a special effects. That's what Stan Winston did right there. And you're not going to do that here.
Yeah, that's the problem with Florida. They used to make movies back in the day, but they closed down almost all their studios just because they get tax breaks in Atlanta or out of that. So right now I've just been applying for their general costuming work in Orlando because they do so much animatronic work and whatnot.
I mean, if you can find work here that you're happy with and like you're passionate about and you obviously got a passion for it. So I'm just saying, that like most movies, they're not shot in LA, but they are produced out of LA. People that are in LA that live in LA, and I would go by like there's Stan Winston and there's like 20 other guys like Stan Winston that like and his guys and people that used to work for Stan Winston. It goes down the list, and I would go to every one of those guys and show them your portfolio and just keep going down, and you start off probably making like you're young enough to start off in like low budget stuff and work your way up, man. That's like the way to do it, but you're not going to do it from here.
I'm aware of that. Right now I'm just working on finishing college. Working on building the best portfolio I can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Where are you going to school?
Eastern Florida State. Right now I'm just getting a general associates of arts. I work full time and I go to school full time, or used to go to school full time.
Right. Well, I mean, having a college education these days is
not as important as it used to be.
Not as important as it used to be, right? And there's a lot of college graduates that are running, rent-a-car places and stuff. So, but I wouldn't advise you to not finish school, especially if you've got some serious time put in. But you're just not going to get very much work done and be around. You need to surround yourself with other creative people and people that want to make movies.
Who
and stuff.
It's
not even who do you know? I mean, you can go to LA and you can start banging on doors and just like go to special effects places and look them up and online and find out where they are and where their addresses are, and then just go to them and then go back to them and go back to them and just keep like applying at different places over and over and over again. And sooner or later somebody's going to take you on. They're not going to pay you anything, but they'll take you on as kind of an apprentice type of situation. And but I mean, if you're really talented, maybe they will. I don't know what your whole portfolio is. This to me is something that is
Something
pretty
small.
impressive that you've did like last night, and
Yeah, we'll see if
doesn't
I
have the
picture my
teeth
wrapper
and
on
stuff
you.
in it, but it looks pretty good, you know.
Yeah, if you can pull it out, it'd be nice.
So again, it's kind of like the Robert Rodriguez thing, man. You just got to go do it.
There
You
you go.
got to, not sit around thinking about it. You got to just go find those people that do special effects, and a lot of this stuff is now done CGI. you know.
Yeah, I was originally, my degree right now is still on for special effects computer wise, because I liked that stuff growing up, and then I kind of fell more in love with actually hands-on holding this stuff.
Person actually gives in it.
So
I'll show you. There's a person in it where it's not painted.
Yeah, well, you obviously are you guys together?
Yes,
Yeah, she's
that's
my
my
Well,
fiance.
then you got to
Yeah.
move to LA too. So, that's the ticket. I mean, if you really want to get involved in making movies, I mean, you can. Like I was telling him, you can make your own movies if you want to.
yeah, that's
but,
what I was
you know.
starting to think about doing. Just post like tutorial videos on costuming and stuff like that, teach other people.
Yeah.
Just kind of something that I can display my work online where more people can
yeah.
see it.
I mean, that's where. I mean, that's the way to do it. Is just jump right into it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a fluke or not, but is it just coincidence, or is there a reason you played a Navy SEAL so many times?
It's just a coincidence. I mean, I was a Navy SEAL in the Abyss, and then I can remember saying to Mike Medavoy, who ran Orion at the time, when they offered me that role. I turned it down first. I didn't want to do it. And then it didn't have a very good script. It wasn't a very good script, and it was not a very good director. And so I turned it down. And then Charlie Sheen got involved in it. And I thought, fine, well, Charlie Sheen's involved in it. Maybe I can help turn this around. And I wanted to go in and change that movie and make it a real good movie about Navy SEALs, kind of like they did it with Top Gun or whatever, And the script was stupid, and it was just really silly. And I tried to bring some realism to it. If you watch that movie, for instance, you'll see that like the chief, who's Dennis Haysbert, who does all the commercials for the insurance companies, he plays my chief, my best friend or whatever, and Charlie Sheen's kind of this hot dog or whatever, and he gets. Anyway, you go from the funeral of the chief, which is this somber thing, and Mpeth, whatever her name is, the black actress who's been on all that television series for 10 years or whatever, has got like 2 scenes in the movie, and we're at this funeral, and it's dark, it's sad, and it's like, real, and then Charlie Sheen looks over and he sees his car is being towed, and he runs over and jumps on top of the tow truck and undoes the tow, and it flies off backwards, and there's another scene where he jumps out of the car into the it's just complete ridiculous stuff. But I always thought I could get that made into a good movie, but they just the director was, and it had a great cast. Bill Paxton was in it, and Dennis was in it, and Rick Rossovich, who's no longer acting, was in it and big. We had the Navy. I mean, the Navy was behind us. The SEALs were behind us. We had SEALs working with us. We had a Navy SEAL, personal Navy SEAL double, to do some of that stuff where they were going up the side of the ships and other stuff that like stuntman would normally do. With the Navy SEALs who just do the real stuff.
What movie was this?
Navy SEALs. It's called Navy SEAls. It's not very good. I didn't like it.
It's very bad.
It's all right, but it's like 2 different movies, And the stuff that looks really real and like in that movie, that was me rewriting it, changing it. And the stuff that looks really stupid is the movie that I don't even remember the director's name, but he failed upwards because he made the Return of the Jewel of the Nile or whatever, which was a terrible movie. And I don't know how this. If you look at his IMDb, I don't see how he ever even got that job, but he seemed to do bad movie after bad movie, bigger and badder every time. But that was his. I kind of crashed and burned on that. But I did too, man. I was like, that movie beat me up because I was fighting so hard to try to make it good. then you get this reputation for being difficult, you know, which I was, and so are a lot of good actors, you know. Yep.
I didn't remember the lines.
I don't anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore.
You know, I don't anymore because I had a brain injury that I basically was putting up a basketball net on a ladder, and the ladder went out from under me and I hit the back of my head, and it traumatized my brain, and at first it was really bad. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember my kids' names. I couldn't remember like the president's name. It was like when Obama was in office, when his first term. And gradually, slowly over time, you know, I went to a neurologist and stuff. Gradually over time, I basically maintained about 95% of my memory, but short-term memory and like I don't know, my hotel room. I always have trouble with hotels, so my hotel room is in my wallet here because I always forget my hotel room, and I can't remember lines anymore. So I can use cue cards. You know, off camera you can be standing, and you know, like the camera can be on you here, you know, and if the camera's standing on you here, and I'm standing right here with your lines, you know, you can just be like this, and I can look up and catch the line, look down again, and say it, and then you can, you know, these days digital, you can just like roll those cameras. It's just like they used to say, film is cheap, and which it wasn't. It wasn't cheap at all, and they used to have dailies. They used to go back the next day to see after it had been processed or whatever they call it, and you would see what you shot the day before and make sure that everything you shot the day before was good. But now you can just sit there and have now you're looking at the shot right now. And the director usually doesn't, you know, he's looking at, first person I ever saw use that was Jim Cameron on Aliens. And he had something about this size, okay? And it was about this big, and he used to sit and stare at that thing like that. And you know, you were like me, like right there, and to me, I'm like, Jim, like, you know, and he's like, he's watching the shot through this, like this. And I'm like, I'm right here, you know, right, you know, but he was like, this is what counts. All the other bullshit, all the other crap that goes on around it, fights, people arguing, and people setting up and everything, getting there, people getting there late, people, whatever happens during the movie, none of it makes any difference except for like what's right there, what goes right there. Because nobody will ever know anything else except for what's there. How you acted, how you didn't act, who was drunk, who wasn't drunk, who, you know, it's right there, you know. And that was the first time I've ever seen anybody use it. Now directors, like, you know, television shows and stuff, they just sit back, they got a big screen, not quite as big as this one, but, you know, there's, you know, big old screens, you know, and they'll say, no, a little bit to the left, and, you know, the lighting, you know, and they'll just, it's better to watch it digitally like this than to watch it and like watch it like live, and then have to go back and rerun it because you're just wasting time. You gotta use it. I go, all right, we got it. We can move on to the next shot. Then you pick up the camera and change the lens or change the shot or shots if you got 2 or 3 cameras working at the same time. And so for me, I have also an earpiece that I can put in my ear and then put makeup over the top of that, and I can have somebody that's standing outside so other actors can't hear him who can feed me lines. So, but when I did, before I had my injury, I just went over and 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 over, because you don't want to be the guy who screws up, you know.
So they must have like a backup though, in case you do forget.
First of all, you got to remember too, if you think about a Jim Cameron movie, you think about 12 weeks of shooting. And you think about how much dialogue that like Hicks actually has in that. You know, he says a word here, a word there. This probably comes down to like 1 line per day. You know, so it's very easy. What gets hard is when you're doing a television series, and how David Caruso and some of these guys can do these series for 12 years in a row to me. It's just unbelievable. I know they're now worth $20 million. Vince D'Onofrio, who was doing Full Metal Jacket, they were shooting Full Metal Jacket when we were shooting Aliens. When I got over there, they had already started shooting Full Metal Jacket, and they had been in production, and they were shooting for like a month before we started shooting Aliens. We shot Aliens. The movie was released in theaters, and they were still shooting Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket, I forget the name of the star of it. It might be an urban legend, but I heard that he had conceived and had a child on that movie.
D'Onofrio?
What, Vince?
Was it
No,
Matthew-
not
Matthew
Vince.
Biehn?
No, the lead was tall, rangy kid.
Matthew
Modine.
Matthew Modine. Yeah.
Modine, yeah.
Anybody else have
I
any
got
other?
one quick question. I noticed in the first Terminator you were good guy, Aliens, you were a good guy. Abyss, you were a bad guy.
Yeah.
Tombstone, you were a bad guy. Do you prefer one or the other?
I like playing bad guys better because it's more interesting to try to justify really bad behavior in my head. I can justify like somebody calls that guy in the Abyss a bad guy. I'll say, okay, here's a guy. He's used to taking orders. He's cut off from his chain of command. He has this kind of underwater sickness thing that's like happening to him. He's got people telling him there are aliens. Like if I said to you, there's an alien outside the door right now. What are you gonna what are you gonna think? You're gonna think I'm like you really think there's an alien out there? And I'm like,
say you
what
go
do
first.
so like yeah, what are you crazy? Aliens? I would believe it if you had some proof. Oh, here's the proof, and they show a picture of nothing except for a little yellow squig, and it's like, get out of here! Get away from me with your ridiculous ideas about that. It just so happened that they were true, and you bought into it as an audience, and so he becomes the bad guy. But and it's the same thing with Johnny Ringo, and I never play a bad guy. I always play a guy who's totally justified in what he's doing, and really is the hero, and as far as I'm concerned, in the movies. But that's what makes it fun. But the heroes get paid more money. Leading men get paid more money than the bad guys. So that's why you see guys like Tom Hanks. I don't think you ever saw Tom Hanks play a bad guy. And
I haven't played a bad guy.
who?
Oh, I haven't played a bad guy ever. Wow.
Oh, he's in the...
Arnold's never played a bad guy, I don't think. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes,
oh,
in
the
the
first
last
Terminator. Oh, of course. What am I
Yeah,
saying?
still
Yeah,
very
yeah,
I mean, you kind of still root for him. You kind of enjoy
Yeah, I like
it. But
That's
But
true.
it's kind of confusing. You come back to the future, and then you have the child, and then,
No, when people always ask me about that, I always just say, you got to ask Jim Cameron.
It's a movie.
I would never figured that one
They're
out.
like
myself.
as great as the Terminator movies are. There are so many errors in logic in the way the time travel works and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that it makes your head hurt thinking about it too
Yes,
much.
it does.
Right. And actually, there was a lawsuit from a very famous science fiction writer that sued Jim.
Oh, was that
saying
the Outer Limits episode that
Somebody
supposedly had the same plot or something?
Somebody sued Jim and said it was his story. Ray somebody. Ray Bradbury? Is that a writer of science fiction?
Writer, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was him because I just watched the Terminator last night and it said who it was in the credits, but I don't think that was him.
Okay. But anyway, they sued Jim, and there was a settlement, and so like I said, all ideas kind of like I did my movie. What it reminded me of the movie that I did. I kind of copied a George C. Scott movie. I got the chance to work with George C. Scott. He was a great actor. But he did a movie where his daughter disappeared
Yes.
in Los Angeles. It was a brilliant performance, and I kind of copied that a little bit. So, but you just have to be like Woody Allen recently made that movie that the girl won the Academy Award for, which famous Tennessee Williams play down in the South, and Stella and all that. Stella.
Oh, yeah.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Well, that's
that's
exactly what he
definitely
did 3 years ago, and the girl won the Academy Award for Best Actress. It's the same. I mean, almost like to the character. I mean, it was the same thing. And Woody Allen, I'm sure, would tell you, like, I ran out of, he makes a movie every year. He's made a movie every year his entire life. And I'm sure he has said, you know, you didn't have an idea this year, so I decided to do my version of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I'm sure he said that, you know, because it's so close that it's like, you know, it's stunningly close. And of course, every actress in town wanted to play that role, and every actress in town wanted to play Vivian Lee's role when they did Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, or not Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Yeah, Cat on a Hot Tin. Is it Cat on? I'm getting mixed up now. No, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is Paul Newman, and I'm talking about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof was Paul Newman and Elizabeth Taylor. I'm talking about
Virginia Woolf?
no,
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
no,
No.
no. This was directed by. I mean, it was written by Truman Capote. I think it was. No, maybe it wasn't written by Truman Capote. It was down south. Brando played him. It's what made Brando a star.
On the waterfront?
On the Waterfront was one of them, but the other one was the Southern Thing, where he was married to a woman, and they were, you know, lower class, and her sister comes to live with him, and she's this upper class chick, and you know, it's just like, I'm old, my brain doesn't work quite as well as it used to, and I can't think of the name of it now, but if you go back and look at Brando's IMDb page, you'll see that Academy Awards all the way around. Vivian Leigh won Academy Award for Best Actress in it, and Woody Allen just copied the movie, did the same movie. Anything else? Anybody else?
I got a quick question.
Okay.
What's your favorite role that you've done?
Well, my favorite bad guy is Johnny Ringo. My favorite good guy is the Terminator.
Everybody loves Hicks.
I know they do. I like the.
Yeah. I like the guy in Terminator.
I would have loved a whole movie of just Kyle Reese in the future. I would have.
Hopefully they'll be doing another Aliens.
Are you going to do Dancing with the Stars? That in the future? Or?
What's that?
I don't think you're going to do that.
No.
Dancing with the Stars.
I never really was like, you know, people always say, oh, you know, this guy was a movie star in the 80s. I was never really a movie star. I was never like on the cover of any magazines. I didn't have a publicist. I didn't like, I tried to like kind of try to stay under the radar because I didn't really want to be like, I'm not like Tom Cruise. I'm not like those guys that just do movies and their whole entire lives are nothing but movies. I mean, you know, what?
You have to live.
You have to live. I mean, that's what I feel. And, you know, have a family and have kids and enjoy life. And, you know, like Ridley Scott, I mean, just movie after movie after movie. And when you're making movies and you're on locations and stuff, you can't have any family life. You can't, you know.
Right?
But they don't do it for the money. They do it for the passion of
It's 'cause they
making
like it,
movies.
yeah. Yeah,
That's. I mean, I think without movies, Ridley Scott would dry up and blow away. You know, he's 80 something. Same thing with Clint Eastwood. He's in his fucking 80s, whatever, you know, and he's still
He's a good
fucking making.
director.
He's a great, brilliant director.
Yeah.
Brilliant director. Yeah. I mean, Unforgiven, like to me, is the best Western ever made. What?
I completely forgot to bring a writing utensil, but would you be able to sign this in any way? Does anyone have a writing utensil? I'm sorry.
No, I don't have my purse.
You know that I think they're going to make me available tomorrow, but you'll have to pay for it. This is these guys. They're going to make me available at a table someplace with a bunch of pictures, and if you wanted to come by and get a picture, but it
Yeah,
costs
I live 2 hours away, so I'm
Yeah.
probably not.
Yeah. Anybody else?
With, I got one last short question. With the whole movies becoming major franchises and stuff, I noticed that, you know, they made a Prometheus movie, which was supposed to be a direct prequel tie-in with the Alien franchise. Do you think the reason why they had to put, like, I know they put the new Alien movie on hold, you mentioned that, I've heard that too. Do you think that some of the problems behind that might be because Ridley Scott wants to do his own universe and wants it to be a certain way with the scripts, and you think that Neil's script doesn't really work well with his? Because
I don't know. You know, to me, Neil, you know, when I asked him about it, you know, he said like, well, you know, Prometheus told me that Prometheus took place like,
Yeah, a
hundreds
while
of thousands
before.
of years before, or a million,
Yeah.
whatever years before. Well, they had nothing to do with the other one.
Yeah, which,
But I think it has more to do with releasing two movies that have kind of that similar feel to it, that similar thing.
They don't
and-
want to sit on a movie either.
Yeah, and Ridley's the top dog over there. So,
Yeah.
and it's too bad, but I think it'll get made. I mean,
so.
everybody seemed to the internet like lit up, when they heard about that, and that's why fuck. And it would be hugely embarrassing, like I said, to really Ridley also, but also Fox and Sigourney Weaver, and for. Neil Blomkamp, it would be hugely embarrassing if they didn't make it after announcing that they were going to make the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That concept art with you with the acid burn.
Looks
Oh my
great.
god,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm trying to stay in shape for it, man, but the older you get, the harder it is to stay in shape.
But you have to watch every little thing you eat, right?
Well, I'm on a high protein diet, but it's mostly like fruits and stuff like that, so I have to work out a lot. And I'm carrying a lot more weight now than I used to. When I did Terminator, I was like 165. All my life, I've always liked that like kind of lean, that lean look, and I've always had that up until, I turned maybe 55 or 56. And what happens is when you're that thin, then